I took a special interest in him, and we were very close.
What I didn't know is that you were going to get so sexy.
I wasn't introducing you, Michael.
You weren't?
No.
Well, who else do you think makes the stage come to real life besides me and Ed Celeb?
Well, I always knew you would. What? Be sexy. Do you guys think she's sexy?
Diana Ross, renowned as one of the most iconic singers in history, has experienced a multifaceted career marked by both triumphs and controversies. Amidst her legendary status in the Motown era, she has navigated through tumultuous relationships, legal issues, and a dating history that has garnered significant attention. Diana Ross catapulted to stardom as the lead vocalist of the Supremes, a dominant girl group of the 1960s. However, her ascent to fame was not without controversy as accusations of diva behavior and conflicts with fellow members emerged. Particularly, clashes with Florence Ballard led to her dismissal from the group in 1967, making way for Cindy Birdsong to join. Ross's rivalry with Mary Wilson also surfaced, culminating in Wilson's 1986 tell-all book detailing their conflicts. Despite Ross's departure from the Supremes in 1970 to pursue a solo career, lingering tensions and strained relationships persisted for decades.
I have standards. You have a way that you want to run your business. I have standards. I have a way that I think works. I request that in my presence.
Recognized as one of the most influential performers in history, this singer boasts a career spanning over 5 decades, initially gaining prominence with the iconic group, the Supremes, in the 1960s. Her enduring fame and stature were highlighted when she was bestowed the honor of closing the Queen's Platinum Jubilee show, a distinction that placed her ahead of contemporary stars like George Ezra and Mimi Webb, as well as legendary acts such as Elton John and Duran Duran. Hailing from Detroit, the Motown artist has enjoyed immense success throughout her life, although her journey has not always been characterized by smooth sailing. In the early 2000s, Diana Ross faced legal consequences when she was arrested for driving under the influence, an incident that led to her spending approximately 22.5 hours in jail. The incident occurred on December 30th, 2002 in Tucson, where she was pulled over by the police for driving into oncoming traffic. Officers conducted a breath test revealing a blood alcohol concentration of 0.20%, significantly surpassing the state's legal limit of 0.08%.
The police were very good, but they have procedures. It's devastating to be in a police station. I've never been in one before.
Following her arrest, Ross, who was able to phone into her case from New York, received a sentence of 48 hours in jail. However, she served just under half of that time, approximately 22.5 hours. The release was prompted by the unavailability of a female guard for her stay in Greenwich jail. Overall, she spent 47 hours in the custody of Greenwich police over a 3-day period. Other than this, her romantic relationships have gained massive public attention over the years, and the most hyped one was with Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's admiration for Diana Ross began as a childhood crush and evolved into a teenage infatuation, as noted by his brother Jermaine in his book. According to Jermaine, Michael's love for Diana persisted from his early years, and he understood that he wouldn't be able to act on his feelings until he came of age.
When he spent time with Diana Ross with The Wiz, he always had this admiration for Diana Ross when she was young, and I think it got to a point where he really loved her.
In the late 1970s, there were public displays of flirtation between Diana Ross and Michael Jackson, leading to numerous speculations about a possible romance. However, it remains unclear whether their relationship extended into a full-blown affair. The nature of their connection, whether romantic or strategic for their careers, is a topic that has been debated over the years. Some argue that the public flirtation may have been a calculated move to generate publicity and benefit both of their careers, while others believe there may have been genuine emotions involved. Ultimately, the true nature of their relationship has remained private, and both artists have never publicly confirmed or denied any romantic involvement.
Boys came to Detroit for a showcase for Berry Gordy. And I remember them wearing these little green outfits and these hats, and they did a show, and we knew then that it was going to be something special.
Michael Jackson's first encounter with Diana Ross occurred at the age of 10 when he, along with the other 4 members of the Jackson 5, auditioned for Motown Records. At that time, Diana Ross was already a shining star for the label, having carved out her own successful career beyond her fame with the Supremes in the 60s. The media narrative, although untrue, suggested that Diana Ross had discovered the Jackson 5 and leveraged her connections to propel them into superstardom. Contrary to the media portrayal, Diana Ross first saw Michael and his brothers perform at a charity show. Following their meeting, Diana made it a point to support the Jackson 5's career. Michael, who had expressed his admiration for Diana and the Supremes even before achieving fame, moved in with Diana when the Jackson family was looking for a place in LA. Michael's affectionate teasing of his brothers, referring to Diana as his girlfriend, and being protective of her became known aspects of their relationship during that time.
They came to live with me in California for it seemed like just a few months, but I don't know how long it was there.
In '77, Michael Jackson took on the role of the Scarecrow in the film adaptation of The Wiz, and this decision was significantly influenced by his longtime friend Diana Ross, who was cast as Dorothy. Speculation surrounded Ross's casting, with rumors suggesting that she secured the role only on the condition that she could enlist Michael Jackson, then a teen idol, to join the film. At 33, Ross was considered by some as potentially too old for the part of Dorothy. Film critic Pauline Kael described Ross's efforts to bring the film to production as perhaps the strongest example of sheer will in film history. Michael Jackson's mother Catherine once said, quote, "When Diana Ross was named to play Dorothy, Michael had further incentive to land a role in the movie. He'd been in love with her ever since he and his brothers had been her house guests. Quote, 'You're not pretty until you start looking like Diana,' he would tease LaToya and Janet." In 1977, during the filming of The Wiz, Jackson biographer J. Randy Taraborelli recounted instances where Michael Jackson and Diana Ross were known to frequently go out at night, attending parties and visiting New York's iconic Studio 54 nightclub. According to an assistant of Diana Ross, there was an incident where they had been attempting to reach both Michael and Diana in the morning as they were running late for filming. After finally getting hold of them on the phone, they were surprised to learn that the two were in Michael's apartment and that Diana had apparently spent the night there. Later on, during the shoot, Diana was apparently overheard talking to some girlfriends of hers and said to one of them, quote, "Well, I'll tell you one thing, Michael definitely isn't gay." When this assistant asked Michael if anything had happened between them, Michael said, quote, "You'd have to ask her that." And when he asked Diana, she told him he needed to ask Michael. The flirtation between Michael Jackson and Diana Ross continued over the years, fueled by Michael's growing infatuation. However, Diana never took the relationship seriously, largely due to their 13-year age gap. While the age difference wasn't a concern for Michael, Diana was apprehensive about the potential impact on her public image and career. Being a fiercely ambitious woman, she was mindful of the societal taboos surrounding such relationships, especially given that Jackson was a child when they first met.
How did you feel when you heard you got the part in The Wiz? And especially playing with Diana Ross?
Very happy. I love the play so much. I've seen it 6 times before I even knew I was going to be in.
After a photo session with Diana Ross and photographer Todd Gray, Gray showed Jackson proof sheets and Jackson ordered 2 large prints of every picture. The photographer was blown away. Quote, "2 of every single one? That's about 144 prints." Michael answered, "Yes, I can count. I want 1 set for myself and 1 for Diana. Todd, this is magic." In the 1981 special starring Diana Ross, Michael Jackson played a significant role, featuring in 3 collaborative performances alongside being the sole artist, besides Diana herself, to deliver an individual act. Throughout the show, expressions of affection were evident, with Diana referring to Michael as her baby, and frequent hugs between them. The program also included a brief interview where the two engaged in playful banter, exchanging compliments and describing each other as S. In an Ebony interview later that year, Diana Ross expressed her deep admiration for Michael, declaring, quote, "I'm enamored with Michael and my love for him is immense. He has been my source of inspiration. A gentle and wonderful human being, truly one of the extraordinary individuals in this universe. I'm not sure if he realizes how special he is. Whenever I have the opportunity to be in his presence, I relish it. His aura radiates pure love." Diana Ross's vibrant personality and warm interactions with Michael Jackson sometimes led fans to misinterpret their connection as romantic. Diana's infectious charm extended to her interactions with various men in public, including Michael. Unfortunately, Michael became fixated on a perceived romantic connection, going so far as to create a shrine dedicated to their supposed love in his family home, adorned with photographs and mementos.
Diana and Michael had a relationship in the past from their Motown days, and it shows in the film the kind of warmth and friendship between the two.
Despite Michael's feelings, Diana consistently tried to gently convey her lack of romantic interest. The public largely viewed their relationship as more akin to a mother-son dynamic. This was evident during a moment on the red carpet at the 1981 Oscars when Diana playfully remarked, quote, "He's going to play my son," prompting laughter between them as they walked away, highlighting the familial nature of their bond. Despite Diana Ross's subtle hints and gentle rejections, Michael Jackson Jackson, in his naive perception, believed they were in a romantic relationship and harbored hopes of a future together. In a 1983 interview, Jackson expressed his deep admiration for Ross, stating, quote, "Diana Ross is everything you could wish for. I love her. I hope she marries me. She always tells me her most private secrets. That's the kind of relationship we have. It goes on forever." The turning point came in 1985 when Diana Ross married her second husband, Norwegian shipping magnate Arne Nace Jr. Michael Jackson, devastated by the news, reportedly canceled his attendance at the public wedding at the last minute. Reflecting on the situation, he revealed, quote, "When I heard Diana Ross was getting married, I was happy for her because I knew it would make her very joyous. Still, it was hard for me because I had to walk around pretending to be overwhelmed that Diana was getting married to this man I'd never met. I wanted her to be happy, but I have to admit that I was a bit hurt and a little jealous." During the 1986 American Music Awards, Michael Jackson made a notable entrance halfway through the show, accompanied by Elizabeth Taylor, who served as a replacement for Diana Ross. Observers noted Michael's apparent distress and chilly demeanor towards Ross during the event, even as he reluctantly participated in celebrating the success of the USA for Africa We Are the World charity single. The aftermath of Michael's unrequited feelings for Diana Ross found expression in his music. Throughout the recording sessions for his Bad and Dangerous albums, he composed several songs inspired by his relationship with Ross. One such example is the 1992 release Remember the Time, wherein Michael's brother Jermaine noted that the song was crafted with Diana Ross in mind, representing the significant love that, in Michael's eyes, eluded him. Quote, "The song was, as Michael told me, written with Diana Ross in mind, the one great love that, as far as he was concerned, escaped him." In 1987, Michael further addressed his feelings through the release of Dirty Diana on the Bad album. While the song ostensibly touches on the theme of groupies, many fans speculated that it also served as a veiled commentary on Diana Ross. The speculation arose from the belief that Michael, feeling hurt by what he perceived as mixed signals from Ross, channeled his frustration into the song, especially considering her eventual marriage to another man. Ross's marriage, however, was not happy in spite of two sons.
We've shared many magic moments together, the early days and television specials, recording, and doing the movie The Wiz.
Diana and Arne were married, yet they lived on separate continents. Diana mentioned in interviews that she couldn't live in Norway because it was cold and dark and didn't want to move away from her older kids, family, and career in the US. Diana Ross secretly saw Michael Jackson even during her pregnancies. He was devastated and brokenhearted, but was still under her spell, however. Quote, "I've always loved Diana and I always will," he wrote in his autobiography Moonwalk. But as the years went by, Michael's interactions with Diana became more infrequent as she focused on family life, and he extensively promoted and toured around the world. In 1991, Diana Ross told the Rock Hill Herald that, quote, "When he wants to see me, he sees me. When he doesn't, he kinda closes the door. There's no reaching him. There's no finding him. There's no anything. He's just this elusive love out there." While Diana Ross had always held a special place in Michael's heart, their connection reached a poignant moment when she visited him in the hospital in '95. Despite being married to Lisa Marie Presley at the time, Michael had his then wife promptly escorted out of his room to prepare for Diana's arrival. During her visit, he showered Diana with affection and gifts, highlighting the depth of their bond.
Michael and I, been friends since he was really little kid, and he's doing such extraordinary things writing. Right now he's doing an album or writing a song with Paul McCartney.
Following Michael Jackson's passing in 2009, a significant testament to their enduring relationship emerged in his will. In the document, Michael expressed his desire for Diana Ross to care for his children in the event of his mother's demise. This choice reflected not only the immense respect he held for her maternal qualities, based on her role as a great mother to her own children, but also acknowledged the enduring friendship and profound connection they had nurtured over the years. It served as a final acknowledgement of the special place Diana Ross had always occupied in Michael's heart. Now, this is not the only affair of Diana that got hyped. As time passed, many famous artists came forward and acknowledged their affair, and one of them was none other than Berry Gordy. In approximately 1960, Ross and her singing trio, the Primettes, actively sought out Berry Gordy and Motown while still in high school. Despite Gordy being impressed by the group and acknowledging Ross's distinctive lead vocals, he declined to sign them at the time due to their ongoing education. Undeterred, the Primettes later returned to Motown and took on a role as background singers for several Marvin Gaye songs.
Diana Ross she's classy. Diana Ross when the lights come on, Diana Ross comes on.
During a summer stint, Ross also worked as Gordy's secretary, but her performance in the role led to her eventual dismissal. Gordy humorously recalled, quote, "She was so ineffective as a secretary that I had to let her go. You know, my messages were all mixed up and everything." Ultimately, the Primettes secured a record deal in the early 60s, adopting a new name that would become iconic, the Supremes. Quote, "I'm very lucky to have Barry," Ross told Rolling Stone in '73. "He decides what's best for me to do. I give him total responsibility for those decisions. It makes it hard on him, I know, but he takes the time to really make sure he doesn't make a wrong decision for me. He's had this kind of relationship with every other group, but I'm the only person that's really let him have total control." While it would take years before a romantic relationship blossomed between Gordy and Ross, Gordy consistently favored Ross over her fellow bandmates Mary Wilson and Florence Ballard. In 1990, Gordy openly admitted to always prioritizing Ross when it came to choosing who would sing lead. Quote, "I made the choices of who sung lead, and my opinion was always that Diana had the magic and Mary didn't," Gordy revealed to Rolling Stone. "But Mary felt that she should be the one, and I said no. And then of course favoritism was charged, and it was perhaps favoritism because Diana was a favorite of mine, but she had the talent to justify that favoritism." In a more straightforward statement to Playboy, Gordy emphasized, quote, "Everybody knew Diana was my baby." Even after Ross left the Supremes in 1970, her collaboration with Gordy persisted, extending beyond music to the film industry. Gordy served as the executive producer for the Ross-led Billie Holiday biopic, Lady Sings the Blues, and later directed her in the film Mahogany. Say what you will about the pair, but one thing was certain: Gordy was madly in love with the singer. Quote, "It's very clear why I fell in love with Diana," Gordy told Vanity Fair in 2008. "She was my star and she came from the bottom up. With her, it was not only fun, it was just like heaven working with her because she would surpass anything. And she always kept her self-esteem. She always told me, if you think it, I can do it, and she did." However, Gordy's deep affection for Ross didn't always lead to the outcomes he had hoped for. In fact, their first intimate encounter proved to be a bit challenging for the Motown founder. Reflecting on the experience, he candidly told Rolling Stone, quote, "That first night, I tried to make love to her and it didn't happen. That was like the most embarrassing thing of my life." Gordy further explained the complexity of emotions when he shared, quote, "When you think of someone as a princess, the queen of your life, your mind plays tricks on you." In a poignant detail, Gordy revealed to Vanity Fair that he and Ross had a meaningful nickname for each other. Explaining the significance, he said, quote, "For black people, bigotry was a fact of life. We grew up with that. That's why Diana and I started calling each other black." Gordy elaborated on the context of the term, noting, quote, "No one wanted to be called that at the time. Black was considered a negative word in the 60s among the people we knew. This was before black was beautiful. I said a word is a word and I want black to mean love. Diana called me black and I called her black. We wanted people to be proud of being black." After years of maintaining both a personal and professional relationship, Gordy and Ross eventually made the decision to part ways romantically. In an interview with Barbara Walters, Gordy explained their choice not to marry, stating, quote,
"Diana and I are the same kind of people. She wanted what I wanted, and we saw it up there.
We set out to get it, and we vowed never to let our personal relationship affect it. I loved her, but I wasn't selfish enough to want to marry and take her out of what I knew she had to have. She had to have that stardom up there." Expanding on this sentiment in another interview, Gordy clarified that his love for Ross was intertwined with his desire to see her become the biggest star in the world. He admitted that he was, quote, "more in love with her becoming the biggest star in the world," which ultimately became the reason behind their decision to part ways romantically. Gordy acknowledged that if their relationship posed any hindrance to her skyrocketing career, they couldn't pursue it. Despite their decision to end their romantic involvement, Gordy and Ross seemed to have a knack for finding their way back to each other. In late 1970, following their separation, the two shared a night together that proved more successful than their initial encounter.
You loved her?
I loved her, yes, and still do.
But do you still love her the way you did? I mean, she's the mother of your child.
That's right.
About 9 months later, Ross welcomed her daughter Rhonda. During this period, Ross had entered into a marriage with Bob Ellis, who was initially presumed to be Rhonda's father. However, a month or two into her pregnancy, Gordy and Ross had a realization. In an interview with Barbara Walters, Gordy explained, quote, "When she had the child, we had no idea that it was mine. However, as Rhonda grew, the unmistakable resemblance to the music mogul became apparent. After discussions between Gordy and Ross, they acknowledged that Rhonda was indeed Gordy's child. Ross eventually publicly disclosed this information during an appearance on The Oprah Winfrey Show in '93. Rhonda herself remained unaware of Gordy being her biological father until she turned 13. In an interview with Playboy, Gordy praised Ross's decision to delay revealing the truth, stating, quote, "She made a wise decision because when she did tell her, Rhonda was able to handle it well. Despite any prior suspicions, Rhonda noted, quote, "The bottom line was I looked just like Gordy and my sisters looked just like their father, a 6-foot-tall Jewish-American man," when speaking to the New York Post. Moreover, Smokey Robinson has also opened up about his affair with Diana. In an interview with The Guardian, the legendary singer Smokey Robinson opened up about his affair with Diana Ross, which occurred for about a year while he was still married to his first wife, Claudette Rogers. Robinson candidly shared, quote, "I was married at the time. Ross and I were working together and it just happened. But it was beautiful. She's a beautiful lady and I love her right till today. She's one of my closest people. She was young and trying to get her career together." He emphasized that their connection was not something they actively pursued, but rather a natural development. Quote, "I brought her to Motown, in fact. I wasn't going after her and she wasn't going after me, it just happened." Robinson then recounted how their relationship came to an end. Quote, "After we'd been seeing each other for a while, Diana said to me she couldn't do that because she knew Claudette, and she knew I still loved my wife," he explained, "and I did. I loved my wife very much." Reflecting on the complexities of love, Robinson expressed that the experience with Ross taught him that love is more intricate than he had previously imagined.
She wrote a book at one point, and she said the two of you actually were dating at one point.
Yes. Well, it lasted probably longer than it should because I was married at the time.
Moreover, Diana Ross also entered into a romantic relationship with the larger-than-life Kiss frontman Gene Simmons in the early 1980s following her split with Robert Ellis Silverstein. Despite their seemingly unlikely pairing, their connection was strong enough for Simmons to introduce Ross to his mother. The couple attended high-profile events together and openly displayed their love for several years. However, their whirlwind romance eventually concluded, with Simmons later settling down with model Shannon Tweed. Gene Simmons is renowned as a rock and roll legend, serving as the bassist and co-lead singer of the iconic band Kiss. Known for his flamboyant stage presence and undeniable talent, Simmons played a pivotal role in Kiss's ascent to stardom during the 70s and 80s. Prior to his relationship with Diana Ross, Simmons was recognized for a series of high-profile romances, including dating Cher. His status as a rock star ensured that his romantic involvements were always subjects of fascination and intrigue, and so that of Diana. One of her fans wrote, quote, "Diana Ross can take anything life gives her and make it into something good, glamorous, family. If she has had a couple of missteps, look at her now. She's in a great place and she has had a lot of career high points." Another one added, quote, "There's no tragedy. She's had her ups and downs like everyone else. She rose from the ashes every time and she'll be turning 80 next year by the grace of God." Many of her peers didn't make it this far. She's still beautiful as ever, joyful, charming, thankful, and in love with her family and her audience that's still filling up venues to see her 60 years later. She has a blessed life. One more person added, quote, "I don't feel bad for her. It's typical. She slept with the boss to get ahead, cheated on her husband, lied to her child for 13 years, led on and preyed upon Lil Michael Jackson, and was a diva for real. Do I need to keep going?" Indeed, Diana Ross has demonstrated resilience and strength in the face of various challenges and complex relationships. Despite experiencing hardships and romantic ups and downs, she has managed to lead a successful and influential life in the music industry. Ross's ability to compartmentalize her past and not let it overshadow her present speaks to her resilience and determination. Her career, both as a member of the Supremes and as a solo artist, has been marked by numerous achievements, including chart-topping hits, awards, and iconic performances. Ross has left an indelible mark on the music world and has become a symbol of grace and poise.